What if I told you that some of history's greatest achievements weren't built by the civilizations we celebrate today, but by those who vanished so completely we're still piecing together their stories? Picture a time long before modern flight, when ancient cultures defied gravity itself, crafting machines and structures so advanced they seemed to touch the heavens. Yet these skymasters left behind no instruction manuals, no blueprints, just whispers etched in stone, fragments of legend, and unanswered questions that haunt historians to this day. This is the mystery of the eclipsed by time civilizations, societies that soared to unimaginable heights only to disappear without a trace, leaving us to wonder, how did they achieve the impossible? And why did they vanish so utterly? Think about the last time you looked up at the sky, the vastness of it, the endless possibilities. Now imagine an ancient people gazing at those same stars, not just in wonder, but with knowledge we've only begun to reclaim. These weren't just dreamers, they were engineers, astronomers, pioneers who turned the sky into their domain. From airborne vessels described in crumbling texts to towering monuments aligned with celestial precision, their accomplishments defy the timelines we've been taught. Yet their names are lost to history, their cities swallowed by jungles or buried beneath desert sands. What happened to them? Was it catastrophe, conquest, or something far stranger that erased them from the world's memory? That's the journey we're about to take together, a dive into the shadows of history, where the echoes of these forgotten sky masters still linger. We'll unravel the clues they left behind, strange artifacts that shouldn't exist, myths that might be more than stories, and ruins that hint at technology far ahead of its time. This isn't just about the past, it's about the tantalizing possibility that our understanding of human achievement is incomplete. So buckle up, because by the end of this, you might never look at the ancient world the same way again. The sky wasn't the limit for these civilizations, it was just the beginning. Mastering the sky wasn't just about reaching upward, it was about unlocking the secrets of the universe itself. For ancient civilizations, the heavens weren't a distant mystery but a living map, a clock, and even a divine canvas. Take the Mayans, whose pyramids doubled as celestial calculators. Their steps aligned so precisely with the movements of Venus that they could predict its cycles down to the hour. Or consider the Egyptians, whose obelisks acted as giant sundials, casting shadows that told time with eerie accuracy, while their temple corridors framed the rising sun on solstice mornings like a spotlight. These weren't just monuments, they were machines built by cultures that understood the sky's rhythms so intimately, they wove them into the very fabric of daily life. But what about the legends that hint at something even more astonishing: actual flight? The ancient Indian texts known as the Vedas describe Vimanas, flying chariots powered by quicksilver and whirlwinds, capable of traversing continents in a single day. In China, tales of Lu Ban's wooden bird, which allegedly stayed airborne for days, blur the line between myth and lost technology. Even the Greek myth of Icarus, often dismissed as pure fiction, takes on new weight when you consider that the Minoans, the civilization that inspired the story, were master engineers, constructing multi-story palaces with advanced ventilation systems that rivaled modern design. Could these stories be distorted memories of real achievements? The most tantalizing clues lie in the artifacts that defy explanation. The Saqqara bird, a wooden model found in an Egyptian tomb, bears an uncanny resemblance to a modern glider, complete with aerodynamic wings and a tail fin. Tests have shown it could feasibly glide short distances, raising the question: was it a child's toy, a ceremonial object, or proof of early aerodynamic experimentation? Similarly, the Nazca lines of Peru, massive geoglyphs etched into the desert floor, only reveal their intricate shapes, spirals, animals, even what looks like an astronaut when viewed from high above. How did a culture without flight create art meant to be seen from the sky? Perhaps the answer lies in the way these civilizations saw themselves. To master the sky wasn't just about technology. It was about transcending human limits, touching the divine, or even communicating with beings beyond our world. The Dogon people of Mali, for instance, possessed astronomical knowledge of Sirius B, a star invisible to the naked eye, centuries before modern telescopes confirmed its existence. They claimed this wisdom came from amphibious visitors from the stars. Whether you interpret that as myth or misunderstood history, one thing is clear: these cultures believed the sky was within their grasp. And the more we uncover, the harder it becomes to dismiss their dreams as mere fantasy. So where does that leave us, standing at the edge of a puzzle where every fragment we unearth only deepens the mystery? These civilizations didn't just look up in wonder, they reached back, leaving us clues etched in stone, whispered in legends, and hidden in plain sight. The sky wasn't a barrier to them, it was a gateway, and as we piece together their legacy, we're left to wonder, how much of their mastery have we yet to rediscover? High in the mist-shrouded peaks of the Andes, where the air thins and the clouds cling to the mountains like a second skin, the Chachapoya built their cities on the very edge of impossibility. These weren't just settlements, they were feats of defiance, clinging to cliffs so sheer that even modern climbers struggle to reach them. The Chachapoya, known as the warriors of the clouds, didn't just live among the heavens, they seemed to command them, carving terraces and roundhouses into rock faces that dropped hundreds of feet into nothingness. Their architecture wasn't just functional, it was a statement, a declaration that they belonged to the sky as much as the earth. But what makes their story even more haunting is how little remains of them. Unlike the Inca, who left behind sprawling stone cities, the Chachapoya's legacy is fragmented skeletal mummies bundled in eerie fetal positions, their skulls elongated like celestial beings, and walls adorned with symbols that no one alive today can fully decipher. Their disappearance is a gap in history as vast as the chasms beneath their cities. Some say they were conquered by the Inca, assimilated into a growing empire. Others point to their own legends, which speak of a time when the cloud people simply ascended, returning to the mist from which they came. Then there's the mystery of Kulap, their greatest fortress. A massive stone citadel perched on a mountain ridge, its walls soar 60 feet high, built with blocks so precisely fitted that not even a blade of grass can slip between them. But here's the puzzle: Kulap's gates narrow to a single person's width, as if designed to funnel invaders into a deadly bottleneck. Yet there's no evidence of a great battle, no layers of ash or shattered weapons, just silence. It's as if the city was abandoned in an instant, its people vanishing into the clouds they revered. Perhaps the most chilling clue lies in their mummies. Preserved by the cold, dry air, many were found in postures of repose, wrapped in textiles depicting winged figures and celestial patterns. Some even had traces of a substance called quipu, knotted cords that may have been an early form of writing, or perhaps something else entirely. Could these have been maps of the stars, instructions for a journey we can't yet comprehend? The Chachapoya's relationship with the sky wasn't just symbolic, it was intimate, woven into their very bones. What if their disappearance wasn't an ending, but a transformation? Across the Andes, indigenous stories still tell of the Apus, the mountain spirits who watch over the living. Some say the Chachapoya didn't die out, they became the Apus, their souls merging with the peaks they once called home. It's a poetic thought, but it raises a deeper question. When a civilization leaves behind no written records, only ruins and whispers, how do we separate history from myth? The warriors of the clouds challenge us to reconsider what it means to vanish. Maybe they didn't disappear at all. Maybe they're still here, woven into the wind and the mist, waiting for us to look up and remember. Deep in the ancient Sanskrit epics of India, buried between lines of poetry and spiritual teachings, lie descriptions so startling they seem plucked from science fiction. The Mahabharata and Ramayana speak of Vimanas, gleaming aerial chariots that could ascend to the heavens, traverse continents in hours, and even wage war among the clouds. One passage describes a Vimana as self-moving, adorned with jewels radiating light, its occupants unharmed as it soared through hurricanes and solar flames. Another details an aerial battle where projectiles, brighter than 10,000 suns, reduced cities to ash. These aren't the vague musings of dreamers, they're technical accounts, complete with references to mercury vortex engines, metallic alloys, and propulsion systems that eerily mirror modern aerospace principles. What makes these accounts so compelling isn't just their specificity, it's the cultural context. Ancient India was a cradle of scientific innovation, giving the world concepts like zero, calculus precursors, and surgical techniques detailed in texts like the Sushruta Samhita. The same civilization that mapped the stars with uncanny accuracy also wrote of aerial navigation manuals called Vimana Shastra, which purportedly outlined flight protocols, fuel mixtures, and even precautions against bird strikes. When the 19th century scholar Shivkar Bapuji Talpade allegedly built a mercury-powered aircraft based on these texts, a claim still debated today, it wasn't just fringe theorists who took notice, it was a challenge to our entire timeline of technological progress. Yet skeptics argue these descriptions are purely symbolic, comparing Vimanas to the celestial chariots of Greek or Norse myths. They point out that ancient cultures often used flight as a metaphor for spiritual ascension. But here's the twist: unlike Icarus' wax wings or Thor's goat-drawn chariot, Vimana accounts include details that defy mythological shorthand. The Samarangana Sutradhara, an 11th century text, dedicates entire chapters to construction methods, advising engineers to use lightweight, heat-resistant metals and warning against untested designs, a level of practicality absent from purely allegorical tales. Even more striking are temple carvings across India, like the intricate reliefs at Shravanabelagola, depicting figures piloting bulbous, winged vehicles that bear no resemblance to any known animal or divine conveyance. The most tantalizing evidence might lie in the gaps. When British colonizers looted India's libraries in the 19th century, countless manuscripts vanished, including many rumored to contain Vimana blueprints. Today, researchers like Dr. Subhash Kak have pieced together fragments suggesting these machines weren't just flights of fancy, but part of a sophisticated scientific tradition later suppressed or lost. Modern experiments with mercury-based propulsion like Nazca, a work on ion thrusters, hint that ancient descriptions might have roots in observable physics, however imperfectly understood. So where does this leave us, standing at the crossroads of myth and memory, where every new discovery blurs the line between legend and lost history? Whether Vimanas were real aircraft or elaborate metaphors, their persistence across millennia speaks to something profound, an enduring human yearning to conquer the sky, and perhaps a whisper from a past more extraordinary than we've dared to imagine. The real mystery isn't just whether ancient India mastered flight. It's why we're so resistant to believing they could have. Stretching across Peru's arid desert like a giant sketchbook, the Nazca lines defy logic with their sheer scale and precision. These aren't just random scratches in the earth, they're colossal artworks, some spanning over 600 feet, depicting spiders, hummingbirds, and geometric patterns so precise they could have been drawn with a laser. But here's the catch: from ground level, they're invisible. Walk across the desert, and you'd see nothing but rocky soil. It's only when you rise hundreds of feet into the air that the full designs snap into focus, crisp and unmistakable. How did a civilization without flight create art meant to be seen exclusively from the sky? The most straightforward theory points to the Nazca people's ingenuity. Archaeologists have found simple wooden stakes near some lines, suggesting they might have used ropes and grids to scale up small models into massive designs. Imagine teams of workers moving methodically across the desert, pulling cords taught to carve straight lines that stretch for miles, or etching the graceful curve of a monkey's tail by following a pre-planned pattern. It's a testament to human patience and coordination, but even this explanation leaves gaps. How did they maintain such perfect proportions over vast distances without ever seeing their work from above? And why go to such lengths for designs only visible to the gods or something else? Then there's the more tantalizing possibility. What if the Nazca lines weren't just art but functional markers? The ancient runway theory, popularized in the 1960s, suggests the long, straight lines could have guided airborne vehicles like landing strips for aircraft. Proponents point to the fact that some lines resemble modern airport layouts, with wide paths and intersecting grooves that mimic taxiways. Even more intriguing are the trapezoidal shapes, which seem to funnel toward a central point, almost like directional beacons. Could these have been signals to pilots or even navigation aids for celestial visitors? But before we leap to extraterrestrial conclusions, consider the spiritual angle. The Nazca culture revered nature and water in a land where rain was scarce. Many figures like the hummingbird, a pollinator linked to fertility, or the spider, a symbol of rain in local myths, align with constellations during key agricultural seasons. Some researchers believe the lines formed ritual pathways walked by priests during ceremonies to invoke the gods' favor. The desert itself may have been a sacred canvas where creating these massive offerings ensured balance between earth and sky. Perhaps the most compelling clue lies in the Nazca's own tools. Recent discoveries of ceramic pots near the lines depict figures holding what look like balloons, their bodies tilted as if floating. Could the Nazca have pioneered early hot air balloon technology, using fire and woven fabrics to achieve brief flights for surveying their work? Experiments in the 1970s showed it was possible with materials available at the time, but no physical evidence of balloons has ever been found. The truth might lie somewhere in between. The Nazca lines could be a fusion of astronomy, art, and ritual, a way to map the heavens onto the earth, turning the desert into a mirror of the cosmos. Their creators didn't need to fly to understand perspective. They needed only to watch the stars and trust that their messages would be seen by forces greater than themselves. Yet the precision of their work still whispers of knowledge we've yet to fully grasp. In a world where we take aerial views for granted, the Nazca lines remind us that sometimes the most profound mysteries aren't about how something was done, but why. And that question still hovers over the desert, waiting for an answer. The Minoans didn't just vanish, they left behind a riddle wrapped in frescoes and buried under layers of ash. On the island of Crete, their sprawling palace of Knossos stands as a testament to a civilization that seemed to defy its time. With multi-story buildings equipped with flush toilets, intricate drainage systems, and vibrant murals depicting bull-leaping rituals, the Minoans were clearly masters of both art and engineering. Yet around 1450 BCE, their culture collapsed so abruptly that historians still debate whether it was disaster, invasion, or something far more extraordinary that erased them from history. The most popular theory points to the cataclysmic eruption of Thera, a volcanic island 70 miles north of Crete. The blast was so powerful it likely triggered tsunamis that devastated Minoan coastal cities, while ash clouds blotted out the sun for years, crippling agriculture. But here's the catch: Knossos, their grandest city, wasn't destroyed by the eruption. It survived only to be abandoned decades later. If the volcano didn't deliver the final blow, what did? Some scholars argue it was invasion by the Mycenaeans, whose weapons and artifacts suddenly appear in Minoan ruins. Others note the absence of mass graves or battle damage, suggesting a quieter, more mysterious end. Then there's the tantalizing thread of flight. Among the ruins, archaeologists have uncovered small gold pendants shaped like winged insects or birds, their designs suspiciously aerodynamic. Even more intriguing are the Minoan frescoes depicting griffins, mythical creatures with the bodies of lions and the wings of eagles. Could these be symbolic, or do they hint at something deeper? The legend of Daedalus, the master craftsman who built wings to escape Crete, might be more than myth. Minoan engineers were adept at constructing complex structures. Is it so far-fetched to imagine they experimented with gliders or early flight? The real enigma lies in what's missing. Unlike other Bronze Age cultures, the Minoans left no records of kings or conquests. Their writings, etched in linear script, remain undeciphered, their voices silenced. Even their art tells a paradoxical story: vibrant scenes of dolphins and dancers, but no depictions of war or warriors. Were they a peaceful people undone by violence, or did they see their demise coming and choose to leave? Some researchers point to evidence of deliberate abandonment: precious objects carefully buried, doors sealed, as if they intended to return. Perhaps the most haunting clue comes from the sea. Minoan shipbuilders were unparalleled, crafting vessels capable of crossing the Mediterranean. Yet after their collapse, their distinctive ships vanish from historical records. Could they have sailed beyond the horizon, seeking refuge in distant lands? Ancient Egyptian texts speak of Keftiu, a seafaring people from the north who brought exotic gifts, a description that fits the Minoans perfectly. Did they resurface elsewhere, their culture absorbed by new civilizations? The Minoans challenge us to rethink what it means to disappear. Their legacy isn't just in the ruins they left behind, but in the questions they force us to ask. When a civilization fades without a clear ending, history becomes less about facts and more about possibilities. Maybe they didn't vanish at all. Maybe they simply transformed, their spirit living on in the myths we tell and the skies they might have once dared to conquer. Rising from the Cambodian jungle like a stone hymn to the heavens, Angkor Wat's towers stretch skyward with impossible precision. This sprawling temple complex, built in the 12th century, is more than just an architectural marvel. It's a celestial clock carved in sandstone. During the spring equinox, the sun climbs directly over the central tower, casting a shadow that aligns perfectly with the temple's sacred corridors. Step back further, and you'll notice the entire complex mirrors the constellation Draco, its layout mapping the stars with an accuracy that would have required advanced astronomical knowledge. How did a civilization without telescopes or modern mathematics achieve such cosmic harmony? The answer might lie in the temple's lesser-known carvings. Between scenes of gods and battles, artisans chiseled intricate depictions of flying chariots called Vimanas, their designs eerily similar to those described in ancient Indian texts. One panel shows a figure seated inside a bulbous vehicle, surrounded by swirling patterns resembling propulsion flames. Another depicts what looks like a celestial battle, with airborne crafts firing beams of light. These aren't isolated images, they're part of a recurring theme across Angkor's temples, suggesting the builders didn't just worship the sky, they might have believed flight was within their reach. But the real mystery isn't just what they knew, it's how they applied it. Angkor Wat's moat, often dismissed as a decorative feature, functions as a giant spirit level. Its water's surface provides a perfect horizontal reference, allowing builders to maintain flawless symmetry across the massive complex. The temple's bas-reliefs also encode astronomical data. The churning of the ocean myth, for instance, corresponds to the precession of the equinoxes, a cycle spanning 26,000 years. This level of sophistication implies a sustained tradition of sky watching, one that likely predated the temple itself by centuries. The most compelling clue, though, lies in the temple's abandonment. By the 15th century, Angkor was deserted, its canals choked with silt and its libraries lost to time. Yet local legends persist of a golden age when the gods walked among humans, sharing secrets of the stars. Some scholars now suspect Angkor's builders belong to a wider network of sky-focused cultures, their knowledge passed down through oral traditions before being crystallized in stone. When Portuguese explorers first stumbled upon the ruins in the 16th century, they assumed they'd found a lost city of giants, a testament to how thoroughly the temple's builders had vanished from memory. Today, laser scans reveal Angkor Wat was just the heart of a sprawling metropolis, larger than modern-day Los Angeles, with hydraulic systems rivaling modern engineering. Its creators didn't just build a temple, they engineered a microcosm of the cosmos, a place where earth and heaven converged. The question isn't whether they understood the sky. It's whether we've fully grasped the depth of what they left behind. In the sun-baked cliffs of Mali's Bandiagara escarpment, the Dogon people have guarded a celestial secret for centuries, one that shouldn't have been possible for a culture without telescopes. Their oral traditions speak of Sirius B, a dense, invisible star orbiting the bright Sirius A, described as the heaviest thing in the universe and made of a mysterious metal brighter than iron. Here's what stuns astronomers. Sirius B wasn't discovered by Western science until 1862, and its extreme density wasn't confirmed until the 20th century. Yet Dogon elders had mapped its 50-year elliptical orbit long before, even depicting its trajectory in sand drawings with uncanny accuracy. How could a remote African tribe know details about a star impossible to see with the naked eye? One explanation points to the Dogon's sophisticated sky-watching traditions. For generations, their priests tracked celestial cycles using precise oral calendars and observational techniques passed down through rituals. Some anthropologists argue they might have noticed Sirius A's subtle wobble, a telltale sign of an orbiting companion, by monitoring its position relative to other stars over decades. Their knowledge of Sirius B's density could even stem from intuitive physics, recognizing that something tugging on a bright star must be both small and incredibly heavy. It's a testament to human ingenuity, proving advanced astronomy doesn't always require lenses and equations, but another theory lingers at the edges of plausibility. The Dogon claim their knowledge came from the Namo, amphibious beings who descended from Sirius in a spinning vessel, like a potter's wheel, bringing wisdom before retreating to the waters. These descriptions, eerily consistent across generations, include details about Sirius B's white-hot nature and its role as the center of the universe, concepts startlingly close to modern astrophysics. Even more puzzling are Dogon artifacts depicting fish-like figures alongside star maps, some showing Sirius as part of a triple star system. In the 1970s, astronomers debated whether Sirius had a third star. Recent studies suggest gravitational anomalies that might hint at an undiscovered companion. Skeptics counter that the Dogon's knowledge could stem from cultural contamination. Early 20th century missionaries or anthropologists might have shared astronomical findings. Yet French ethnographer Marcel Grioul, who first documented the Sirius lore in the 1930s, insisted the Dogon had no access to telescopes or Western education. Their descriptions of Sirius B's orbital path matched scientific data too precisely to dismiss as coincidence. Perhaps the truth lies in the Dogon's unique cosmology, where science and spirituality intertwine. Their shamans still performed dances reenacting the Namo's arrival, their bodies undulating like waves to mimic the being's aquatic nature. Whether these rituals preserve contact with an advanced civilization or encode generations of observational genius, one thing is clear: the Dogon challenge our assumptions about how knowledge is preserved and who gets to claim discovery. Their story isn't just about a star, it's about the unbroken thread of human curiosity, stretching from the cliffs of Mole to the edges of the cosmos. Plato's description of Atlantis isn't just a tale of a sunken city, it's a blueprint for a civilization that defied the limits of its time. In his dialogues Timaeus and Critias, he describes a people so advanced they harnessed the power of flight with ships that soared above the clouds, powered by a mysterious energy source called orichalcum. These weren't primitive gliders, they were vessels capable of traversing vast distances, linking Atlantis to distant lands in ways that would have seemed miraculous to contemporary cultures. But what if Plato's account wasn't pure fiction? What if it was a fractured memory of a real society that mastered the skies only to vanish when their island plunged beneath the waves? The parallels between Atlantis and other sky-focused civilizations are too striking to ignore. Like the Minoans, Atlantis was said to have possessed intricate hydraulic systems and towering structures adorned with precious metals. Like the Nazca, their art and architecture allegedly reflected celestial patterns, with temples aligned to solstices and star cycles. Even their downfall mirrors the abrupt collapses we've seen elsewhere, a catastrophic event, whether earthquake, flood, or volcanic eruption, erasing them almost overnight. But Plato adds a chilling detail: the Atlanteans saw their doom coming. Could their flying machines have been more than just tools for exploration? Could they have been escape pods, carrying the last of their knowledge to distant shores? Skeptics argue Atlantis was purely allegorical, a cautionary tale about hubris. Yet modern discoveries keep nudging the legend toward plausibility. In the Azores, deep sea scans have revealed geometric structures submerged under thousands of feet of water, potential remnants of human activity dating back to the Ice Age. Off the coast of Cuba, sonar images show what appear to be massive stone formations arranged in symmetrical patterns, far below where conventional history says any civilization could have built. Even more intriguing are ancient maps like the Piri Rise, which depict Antarctica's coastline with shocking accuracy centuries before its official discovery. Could these fragments point to a lost maritime network, one that included Atlantis as a central hub? The most tantalizing clue might lie in the shared myths of flood survivors. From the Babylonian epic of Gilgamesh to the Hopi stories of the Third World, cultures worldwide speak of enlightened beings who escaped destruction by taking to the skies or hiding in mountain refuges. The Dogon's Namo, the Vedic Vimanas, even the biblical Ezekiel's wheel, all describe encounters with airborne entities bearing advanced knowledge. Could these stories be distorted retellings of Atlantean refugees, their technology so advanced it seemed divine to those who witnessed it? The real mystery isn't whether Atlantis existed as Plato described it. It's why so many disparate cultures separated by oceans and millennia kept echoing the same themes: flight, cataclysm, and lost wisdom. Whether Atlantis was a place, a metaphor, or something in between, its legacy endures in the human obsession with reaching beyond our limits, and perhaps that's the point. The greatest civilizations aren't just measured by what they built, but by the questions they leave behind, questions that still hover at the edge of our understanding, waiting for the next explorer to look up. The Olmecs didn't just carve stone, they carved questions into history that still taunt us today. Deep in the steamy jungles of Mexico, their colossal heads rise from the earth like silent sentinels, some weighing over 20 tons, their features so distinct they could be portraits of real people. But here's what's truly baffling. These heads were hewn from basalt, a rock found miles away in the Tuxtla Mountains, with no evidence of wheels or beasts of burden to transport them. How did a civilization without draft animals or metal tools move mountains of stone across rivers and swamps? The answer might lie in their most enigmatic symbol, the feathered serpent, a deity often depicted with wings, soaring above temples and stelae as if hinting at a mastery of the skies. Look closer at their artifacts, and the hints multiply. Olmec jade figurines unearthed at La Venta show humanoid figures with elongated skulls and what appear to be helmets or headpieces, their arms outstretched like wings. One particularly striking piece, the Birdman, depicts a hybrid creature with avian features gripping a serpent, an image later echoed by the Aztecs' Quetzalcoatl and the Mayas' Cuculcan. Were these just mythological motifs, or could they represent something more? In 1945, aerial surveys revealed Olmec ceremonial centers aligned with celestial events, their plazas and pyramids forming patterns only visible from above. Did they design their cities for an audience in the clouds? Then there's the mystery of their disappearance. Around 400 BCE, their great cities, La Venta, San Lorenzo, Tres Zapotes, were abruptly abandoned. No signs of war, no evidence of famine, just empty plazas and half-finished carvings, as if they'd walked away mid-sentence. Some scholars believe they simply merged with emerging cultures like the Maya, their knowledge diffusing into later civilizations. But local legends tell a stranger tale, stories of bearded sky gods who arrived in glowing vessels, shared wisdom, then vanished back into the heavens. These accounts, recorded by Spanish missionaries centuries later, describe visitors with tools that could cut stone like fruit and fly without wings. Could the Olmecs have encountered or even become these skyborne beings? The most tantalizing clue might be hiding in plain sight. In 1999, archaeologists excavating an Olmec site uncovered a slab of magnetized hematite carefully placed beneath a temple floor. When mapped, the stone's magnetic fields aligned with constellations visible during the Olmec's peak. Was this a navigational tool, a star chart, or something else entirely? Modern experiments show that suspended hematite can act as a crude compass, but the Olmecs wouldn't have needed one for terrestrial travel, unless, of course, they were navigating something far grander. What if the Olmecs' greatest achievement wasn't just what they left behind, but what they took with them? Their influence ripples through Mesoamerican history like a stone dropped in water, seen in the Maya's calendar system, the Aztec serpent god worship, even the Zapotecs' astronomical codices. Yet their own origins remain shrouded. No one knows where they came from, or why their art suddenly depicts African and Asian facial features in a pre-globalized world. Perhaps the answer isn't in the ground, but above it. The Olmecs didn't just look to the sky for gods, they might have reached for it as pioneers, leaving us to wonder whether their disappearance was an ending or an ascent. And those stone heads, maybe they weren't monuments to the past, but waypoints for a future they alone could see. Chinese emperors didn't just rule the earth, they supposedly commanded the skies. Ancient texts like the Shanhai Jing, a 2,000-year-old compendium of mythical geography, describe the feathered people, beings clad in robes of plumage who could glide between mountain peaks without touching the ground. These weren't isolated legends. The records of the grand historian tell of Emperor Shun, who escaped assassination by donning bird garments and soaring to safety, while later dynastic chronicles mention aerial chariots called Qianglong, dragons of the void used by rulers to survey their domains from the clouds. But what if these stories held more than poetic license? Enter Lu Ban, the legendary craftsman of the 5th century BCE. Revered as the patron saint of carpenters, his exploits border on the supernatural. One account claims he built a wooden falcon so lifelike it stayed aloft for 3 days before returning to his hand. Another describes a mechanical cloud ladder used to scale city walls during sieges, a device some historians reinterpret as an early glider or even a primitive helicopter. Skeptics dismiss these as fanciful exaggerations, but consider this. Lu Ban's treatises on construction, though fragmented, contain precise geometric calculations and references to wind-resistant joints. Could his flying bird have been more than a child's fable? The evidence isn't just in words. In 2008, archaeologists excavating a Han Dynasty tomb in Xinjiang uncovered a silk painting depicting a strange scene. Figures clustered around a wheeled platform topped with spinning blades, their arms raised as if launching it skyward. The design bears an uncanny resemblance to Leonardo da Vinci's aerial screw sketches but predates them by 1,500 years. Even more compelling are the Dunhuang manuscripts, hidden for centuries in a sealed cave library. Among them, a scroll titled The Classic of Flight details a recipe for ascension powder made from magnetite and cinnabar, substances known to react violently when heated. Was this alchemy or a garbled recipe for propulsion? Then there's the mystery of the chariot of the wind god, a bronze artifact recovered from a Zhou dynasty tomb. At first glance, it looks like an ornate ceremonial carriage, until you notice the fan-like blades mounted on its sides and the intricate gear system inside. Replicas have shown that when spun rapidly, the blades generate enough lift to make the chariot vibrate as if straining against gravity. Historians debate whether it was a ritual object or a prototype, but one detail is telling. Contemporary texts warn it was forbidden to test near palaces, hinting at failed experiments the court wanted to erase. Perhaps the most haunting clue lies in what didn't survive. When the first emperor unified China in 221 BCE, he ordered the burning of all books not related to medicine or agriculture. Countless technical manuals, possibly including flight treatises, vanished in the flames. Later, during the Mongol invasions, the great libraries of Hangzhou were said to house diagrams of heaven-touching machines, all lost when the city fell. The few fragments that remain suggest a tradition of aerial experimentation stretching back millennia, later dismissed as myth. So where does that leave us? With whispers in the wind, literally, even today, rural Chinese festivals feature kites shaped like mythical beasts, some large enough to carry a person. These aren't just toys, they're echoes of a time when the line between technology and magic was blurred, when the sky wasn't a limit but a challenge. The feathered people may have been allegory, but the ambition behind them was real. And somewhere between Lu Ban's workshop and the emperor's forbidden chariots, there's a story we've only begun to piece together, one written not in ink, but in the restless human desire to rise. Perched high in the sandstone cliffs of the American Southwest, the empty dwellings of the ancestral Pueblones, better known as the Anasazi, tell a story without words. These weren't just homes, they were architectural marvels, built into sheer rock faces with such precision that even modern engineers marvel at their stability. But around the 13th century, something extraordinary happened. The Anasazi walked away from their towering cities, places like Mesa Verde and Choco Canyon, leaving behind pottery, tools, even meals half-eaten, as if they'd stepped out for a moment and never returned. What could have driven a people to abandon centuries of labor in what seems like the blink of an eye? One clue might lie in the stars. The Anasazi structures aren't just shelters, they're celestial calendars. At Choco Canyon, the massive Pueblo Bonito complex aligns with the solstices, its walls casting shadows that mark the changing seasons with razor-thin accuracy. Nearby, the sun dagger petroglyph captures the sun's rays at midday during the summer solstice, illuminating a spiral carving like a spotlight. These weren't accidental features. They required generations of sky watching, a mastery of astronomy that rivaled Europe's medieval scholars. Could this knowledge have been more than practical? Some petroglyphs depict humanoid figures with wing-like appendages or halos hovering above the ground. Local Hopi traditions speak of the Kachina, spirit beings who traveled between earth and sky, teaching the people before departing. Were these carvings symbolic, or could they hint at something more tangible? Then there's the darker possibility. Tree rings from the era reveal a devastating megadrought spanning decades, a slow suffocation of the land that would have turned fertile valleys into dust bowls. Conflict seems to have followed. Skeletal remains at some sites show signs of violence, their skulls fractured by blunt force. But here's the twist: the Anasazi didn't just vanish. Their descendants are still here. Modern Pueblo tribes like the Hopi and Zuni trace their lineage directly to these cliff dwellers, preserving oral histories of a great migration, not upward but outward, scattering to new lands when the old ones could no longer sustain them. Yet the mystery lingers in the details. Why leave behind perfectly good structures? Why no record of their departure? And what to make of the eerie disappearance petroglyphs found near some dwellings, figures with outstretched arms as if mid-flight? Perhaps the answer isn't in choosing between drought, war, or the sky, but in understanding how all three might intertwine. A people who read the stars so closely would have seen the drought coming long before it arrived. Maybe their petroglyphs weren't just art but warnings or even departure plans. Standing in the shadow of these silent cliffs, it's hard not to feel the weight of their absence. The Anasazi didn't just leave buildings behind, they left a question carved in stone. How do you know when it's time to let go of the world you've built? Their story isn't one of failure, but of adaptation, a reminder that sometimes survival means walking away from the very heights you've spent generations reaching. And perhaps that's the most enduring lesson of all. Among the ruins of Crete's Minoan palace at Phaistos, a single clay disc stands apart, not for its size or grandeur, but for the cryptic spiral of symbols stamped into its surface. Discovered in 1908, the Phaistos Disc is roughly the diameter of a modern dinner plate, yet it carries a message that has defied translation for over a century. 45 unique symbols ranging from human figures and birds to abstract shapes resembling weapons or tools curl inward like a coiled serpent, their meaning locked away by time. What makes this artifact so tantalizing isn't just its undeciphered script, but the way it challenges our assumptions about ancient technology, those perfectly stamped symbols. They weren't carved by hand. The disc is the earliest known example of movable type printing, predating Gutenberg's press by 3,000 years. Who were the people who possessed such precision, and what knowledge was so valuable they went to such lengths to preserve it? Some researchers believe the disc could be a religious hymn or a legal document, but more provocative theories suggest it might be something far more extraordinary. The repeated appearance of bird-like symbols and what look like stylized wings has led a minority of scholars to propose it could be a technical manual, perhaps even instructions for constructing or operating flying devices. This might sound far-fetched until you consider the Minoans' other achievements. Their palaces had advanced ventilation systems resembling modern air ducts, and their artisans crafted gold pendants so delicate and aerodynamic they flutter when suspended. Could the disc's spiral pattern represent a flight path or celestial navigation chart? The ancient Greek myth of Tolos, a bronze automaton who circled Crete 3 times daily, hints at a cultural obsession with mechanical motion, one that might have roots in real Minoan innovation. Yet the disc's isolation deepens the mystery. No other examples of its script have ever been found, making it impossible to cross-reference the symbols. Even the clay itself is unusual. Analysis suggests it came from the nearby Masara plain, but the firing technique is unlike anything else from the era. The symbols were stamped while the clay was still wet, then baked to permanence, a process requiring both precision and purpose. Why go to such trouble for a one-off object? Some linguists argue the symbols might represent syllabic sounds, while others see them as ideograms conveying whole concepts. A few even speculate the disc could be a proto-encyclopedia, encoding everything from star maps to medicinal recipes in its compact form. The most compelling clue might lie in the disc's very existence. The Minoans were masterful record keepers, using linear, a script for administrative documents. But the Phaistos Disc symbols share almost no overlap with linear A, suggesting it served a radically different function. Was it a sacred object meant to be read not by scribes but by initiates who memorized its secrets? Or could it be a relic from an even older culture, one that passed fragments of its knowledge to the Minoans before vanishing? Modern attempts to decode it using AI pattern recognition have yielded no breakthroughs, leaving the disc's message as elusive as ever. Perhaps the truth lies somewhere between artifact and enigma. The Phaistos Disc doesn't just resist translation, it resists categorization. It's a reminder that some ancient innovations were so far ahead of their time, they appear as anomalies in the archaeological record. Whether it holds flight instructions, a forgotten hymn, or something beyond our imagination, its greatest lesson might be humility. For all our technological prowess, there are still codes we can't crack, voices from the past that whisper just beyond our understanding. And that silence speaks volumes. High in the arid mesas of Arizona, the Hopi people have preserved stories that seem to defy time itself, tales of the Patavota, or flying shields, vessels described as gleaming discs that moved silently across the sky, piloted by the Kachina, celestial beings who brought wisdom to their ancestors. These accounts, passed down through generations, don't read like vague myths. They're startlingly specific. The shields could hover motionless before darting away faster than an arrow, their surfaces reflecting the sun like polished metal. Some elders even describe them emitting a low hum, a sound modern ears might associate with advanced propulsion. What's remarkable isn't just the similarity to contemporary UFO reports, it's the way these stories are woven into the fabric of Hopi life, embedded in rituals and petroglyphs as if they were historical records, not just folklore. Take the Kiva ceremonies, where masked dancers embody the Kachina spirits. Certain masks depict beings with elongated heads and large, almond-shaped eyes, features echoing modern descriptions of extraterrestrial visitors. But here's where it gets even more intriguing. The Hopi insist these aren't symbolic representations. They're portraits. Oral traditions speak of a time when the Kachina walked among them, teaching agriculture, astronomy, and even how to construct underground cities like those found at nearby Palatquapi. When the Kachina departed, they promised to return, a prophecy that resonates in Hopi ceremonies to this day. Could these stories be metaphorical, or do they hint at encounters with a technology so advanced it seemed supernatural? Then there's the physical evidence. Near the village of Orebai, a petroglyph known as the Star Rock depicts a humanoid figure inside a circular object with radiating lines, strikingly similar to mid-century UFO illustrations. Nearby, another carving shows a spiral path leading from Earth to a cluster of dots, a possible representation of interstellar travel. Skeptics argue these symbols could represent comets or spiritual journeys, but Hopi elders counter that their ancestors were precise observers of the cosmos. They tracked the movements of planets with naked eye accuracy and built their villages in alignment with solstice events. If they could map the heavens, why wouldn't they record something as extraordinary as aerial visitors? The most compelling detail might lie in the Hopi's own artifacts. In the early 20th century, anthropologists documented ceremonial objects called tipanis, sacred staffs adorned with feathers and carvings. Some of these depict winged serpents coiled around cylindrical shafts, a design that, when viewed through a modern lens, bears an uncanny resemblance to contemporary depictions of spacecraft. Even more provocative are the Hopi's own claims about their origins. Their emergent story tells of fleeing a previous world by ascending through a sipapu or portal, guided by the Kachina. Could this be a cultural memory of migration aided by advanced technology? What sets the Hopi apart isn't just their stories, it's their unwavering conviction that these events were real. Unlike cultures that relegated their aerial legends to the realm of myth, the Hopi treat the flying shields as part of their lived history, a thread connecting past and future. Whether these accounts stem from lost technology, extraterrestrial contact, or profound spiritual experiences, they challenge us to reconsider the boundaries between legend and memory. After all, the Hopi didn't just watch the skies, they believed they belonged among them, and in their ceremonies, their art, and their unwavering oral traditions, they keep that connection alive, not as a mystery to be solved, but as a truth waiting to be remembered. The Himalayas don't just scrape the sky, they guard its secrets. Hidden among the world's highest peaks, crumbling stone structures cling to cliffs so steep, their builders must have defied gravity itself. These aren't the familiar monasteries of Tibet or Nepal. They're something far older, their origins lost to time. Local Sherpas whisper of Dzong, fortress-like ruins perched where no sensible civilization would build, places like the ghostly remains of Tsaparang in western Tibet, a city carved into a mountain's face at 12,000 feet, its windows staring emptily across the abyss. Why construct a metropolis where every breath is a struggle? Unless, of course, the thin air wasn't a barrier but an advantage. Legends of the Lung Gampa monks offer a tantalizing clue. These mystical practitioners were said to traverse vast distances in hours, their bodies moving effortlessly across ravines and peaks as if weightless. 19th century explorer Alexandra David Neal documented encounters with monks who could allegedly cover weeks of travel in days, their strides unnaturally smooth, their feet barely touching the ground. Skeptics dismiss these accounts as exaggerated tales of meditation-induced trances, but what if they're fragments of a forgotten truth? Ancient Tibetan texts describe Vimana-like vessels called Garudas, winged contraptions powered by wind ropes and mercury whirlpools, capable of ascending to celestial realms. Even more intriguing are the Kanya scriptures, which speak of Naljopa yogis who mastered sky walking through sound, using chanting to manipulate the air around them. Could these be garbled accounts of anti-gravity experiments or acoustic levitation? The ruins themselves tell a stranger story. At Nepal's Mustang Caves, archaeologists found tunnels leading to vertical shafts too narrow for stairs, shafts that eerily align with seasonal wind patterns. Some researchers speculate these were ancient wind chimneys, harnessing updrafts to lift people or goods between levels. Then there's the mystery of the sky tombs, burial chambers hollowed out of sheer rock faces at heights that defy logic. Many contain mummies with elongated skulls and chest cavities, their bones showing signs of unusual atmospheric pressure. Were these people adapted to high altitudes or something else entirely? Perhaps the most haunting evidence lies in what's missing. At Tibet's Jayama Palace, a site linked to the ancient Zhangzhung kingdom, carvings depict robed figures hovering above the ground, their hands outstretched toward floating orbs. Nearby, stone discs with spiral grooves reminiscent of the Dropa stone's legend were allegedly found before vanishing into private collections. Even the architecture hints at aerial connections. Flat rooftops perfect for landings, courtyards arranged in precise geometric patterns visible only from above, and iron fragments with unusual nickel ratios suggestive of meteoric metalwork. The Himalayas don't give up their secrets easily. Avalanches, political barriers, and the sheer lethality of the terrain have kept these sky cities shrouded in mystery. But one thing is clear, the people who built them saw the mountains not as obstacles, but as stepping stones, a bridge between Earth and whatever lies beyond. Whether their flight was spiritual, technological, or something we've yet to imagine, their legacy lingers in the wind that howls through empty doorways, carrying echoes of a time when humanity didn't just look up at the sky. It reached for it, buried beneath the sands of Mesopotamia for nearly 2,000 years. A small clay jar no bigger than your fist holds a secret that rewrites history. Known as the Baghdad Battery, this unassuming artifact, a terracotta vessel sealed with asphalt, containing a copper cylinder and an iron rod, looks like something a child might craft. But when filled with an acidic liquid like vinegar or grape juice, it produces a measurable electric current, not enough to power a light bulb, but sufficient to deliver a subtle shock, or, as some researchers suggest, electroplate metal. The implications are staggering. If this was indeed a primitive battery, it means the Parthians or Sasanians, cultures we assume were technologically primitive, might have harnessed electricity centuries before Galvani and Volta discovered it in the 18th century. Now consider this. Ancient texts from the region speak of mysterious objects called thunder jars, capable of producing sparks or tingling sensations. Could these be references to early batteries? Even more tantalizing are the gold-plated artifacts found in nearby ruins, their surfaces too uniformly coated for traditional gilding methods. Some experiments have shown that the Baghdad Battery could, given enough time, deposit a thin layer of gold onto silver through electroplating, a technique not officially invented until the early 19th century. Was this humble jar part of a forgotten industrial process, or something even more extraordinary? Theories about its purpose spiral into the realm of speculation. A handful of researchers, like German archaeologist Wilhelm Koenig, who first studied the battery in the 1930s, proposed it might have been used in early medical treatments. Ancient texts describe using electric fish to numb pain, so why not a controlled current? Others suggest ritualistic use, perhaps to create a divine tingle during ceremonies. But the most provocative idea connects it to the legendary flying thrones, described in Mesopotamian myths, luminous vehicles said to carry kings and gods across the skies. Could stacks of these batteries have powered primitive electrical components in larger machines? Skeptics counter that the Baghdad Battery might simply be a storage vessel for sacred scrolls, with the iron and copper acting as corrosion-resistant seals. Yet this doesn't explain the traces of acidic residue found inside some jars, or the absence of parchment fragments. Even more puzzling is the lack of wires or conductors in the archaeological record. Without a complete circuit, how would ancient people have utilized the electricity? Unless, of course, the missing components were perishable like spun metal threads or even organic materials that decayed over millennia. The truth might lie in the gaps between disciplines. Modern engineers note that while the Baghdad Battery could generate electricity, there's no evidence it was connected to a broader technological network. But absence of proof isn't proof of absence. What if this artifact was a prototype or a discarded fragment of a larger tradition? The ancient world was full of isolated innovations. the Antikythera mechanism, Damascus steel, that appear as flashes in the dark, hinting at deeper knowledge lost to time. So where does that leave us, holding a ceramic puzzle that refuses to fit neatly into history's timeline? The Baghdad Battery doesn't just challenge our assumptions about ancient technology, it forces us to confront how much of the past might still be hidden in plain sight. After all, if something as simple as a clay pot can upend our understanding of human ingenuity, what other surprises are still buried, waiting for the right spark of curiosity to bring them back to life? The flames that consumed the Library of Alexandria didn't just burn parchment, they erased entire worlds of thought. Imagine walking through its halls at the height of its glory, shelves groaning under the weight of scrolls from Babylon, Greece, India, and beyond. Among them, treatises on astronomy so precise they mapped planetary motions centuries ahead of their time, engineering diagrams for machines that defied contemporary understanding, and perhaps most tantalizing of all, fragments hinting at humanity's oldest obsession, flight. The few surviving references to these lost works read like riddles. The Greek mathematician Hero of Alexandria described pneumatic devices and steam-powered engines, while the writings of Archimedes, saved only because they were copied elsewhere, hinted at principles of buoyancy and mechanics that bordered on the magical. What might have been contained in the countless other texts that didn't escape the fire? Consider the whispers that linger in the margins of history. The Roman architect Vitruvius, writing decades after the library's destruction, casually mentioned flying machines of wood and linen designed by a shadowy figure named Archytas of Tarentum. These devices, he claimed, could glide short distances, a claim modern engineers have tested with surprising success using replicas based on ancient descriptions. Even more intriguing are the scattered accounts from Arab scholars who visited Alexandria's ruins centuries later. One, the polymath al-Masudi, wrote of stumbling upon a surviving manuscript describing mechanical birds built for an unnamed pharaoh, their wings powered by compressed air or mercury vapor. Were these fanciful metaphors or echoes of real experiments lost to time? The library's destruction wasn't a single cataclysmic event but a slow unraveling. Julius Caesar's siege in 48 BCE likely burned only a portion of the collection, while later purges under Christian and Roman rule chipped away at what remained. By the time the final remnants vanished in the 7th century, the library had become a ghost, its influence lingering in the works of scholars who'd studied there, but its full scope forever unknowable. This gradual erosion makes the loss even more haunting. If even a fraction of its holdings survived, they might have included answers to questions we're still struggling to solve today. One tantalizing clue survives in an unlikely place, the work of the Islamic astronomer Abbas ibn Firnas. In 9th century Cordoba, he constructed a winged glider based, he claimed, on diagrams salvaged from Alexandria's surviving sister library at Pergamon. His flight, though ending in injury, proved the concepts weren't just theoretical. Could his designs have been descended from the library's lost engineering scrolls? The connections grow eerier when you examine the Antikythera mechanism, that ancient Greek computer recovered from a shipwreck. Its gear systems, capable of predicting celestial events, suggest a level of technical sophistication that aligns disturbingly well with the library's reputation. If such a device existed, what other marvels might have been documented in its halls? The real tragedy of Alexandria isn't just the knowledge we know was lost, it's the questions we'll never think to ask. Every surviving fragment from the ancient world seems to hint at depths we can barely fathom. When the library burned, it didn't just take books with it. It took possibilities, and somewhere in that ashes lies the ghost of a timeline where humanity's relationship with the sky might have been very, very different. Standing silent on England's Salisbury Plain, Stonehenge's towering stones seem to whisper secrets to the wind. This ancient monument isn't just a ring of rocks, it's a celestial calculator, its arches framing the summer solstice sunrise with pinpoint accuracy. But here's what's truly mind-bending. The people who built it 5,000 years ago left no written records, no blueprints, just these colossal stones aligned to the heavens with an engineer's precision. How did a society without telescopes or written language track the stars so flawlessly? And could Stonehenge be the last surviving piece of a much larger puzzle, a sky-worshipping culture now lost to time? Look closely at the architecture, and the genius becomes undeniable. The heel stone, positioned outside the main circle, catches the first light of the summer solstice, casting a beam that slices through the heart of the monument like a laser. During winter solstice, the setting sun aligns perfectly with the central altar and the slaughter stone, a phenomenon so precise it couldn't be accidental. Even more astonishing are the station stones, 4 markers forming a rectangle that maps the moon's extreme rising and setting points in an 18.6-year cycle. This isn't just stonework, it's astronomy carved into the earth, but the real mystery lies in what we don't see. Stonehenge didn't exist in isolation. Across the British Isles, over 1,000 similar stone circles dot the landscape, many sharing eerie alignments with celestial events. The Callanish stones in Scotland mirror lunar cycles, while Ireland's Newgrange Passage tomb floods with light during the winter solstice sunrise. Could these sites have been part of a vast interconnected network, a Neolithic internet of sky knowledge? The builders transported Stonehenge's bluestones from Wales' Preseli Hills, a 200-mile journey that defies logic unless the stones held sacred significance. Some geologists suggest they were chosen for their unique acoustic properties, ringing like bells when struck, perhaps used in rituals harmonizing earth and sky. Then there's the haunting question of purpose. Was Stonehenge a temple, a burial ground, or something more? Recent LiDAR scans reveal hidden pits aligned with solstice sunrises, suggesting ceremonies where light and shadow played starring roles. Skeletons found nearby show signs of gruesome injuries, hinting at possible sacrificial rites timed to celestial events. Yet other theories point to healing. The bluestones were believed to have curative powers, and analysis of ancient remains shows many visitors arrived with severe ailments. Could Stonehenge have been a prehistoric Lourdes where astronomy and medicine intertwined? The most tantalizing clue might come from across the channel. In Brittany, France, the Carnac stones, thousands of megaliths arranged in perfect straight lines, demonstrate similar astronomical precision. Legends say they're a petrified Roman army, but their alignments with solstices and equinoxes suggest a shared cultural obsession with the sky. Did a pan-European civilization exist, united not by language or empire but by celestial knowledge? The similarities are too striking to ignore. Stonehenge's builders may be nameless, but their legacy isn't in the stones they left behind. It's in the questions they force us to ask. In a world where we've mapped the cosmos with satellites, their achievement humbles us. They turned the Earth into a mirror of the heavens, not with silicon chips, but with sweat, intuition, and an unshakable belief that the sky wasn't just to be watched, it was to be conversed with. And as the sun rises through those ancient arches once more, it's hard not to wonder, what else did they know that we've yet to remember? The Sumerians didn't just worship the sky, they claimed to have met its rulers face to face. Etched into thousands of clay tablets, their cuneiform texts describe the Ananaki, beings who descended from the heavens like fire, bringing with them knowledge of agriculture, mathematics, and laws. But these weren't distant, ethereal deities. The tablets depict them walking among humans, teaching, ruling, and even intermarrying with mortal families. One account from the city of Eridu details how the Ananaki arrived in metal chariots that roared like thunder, their landing so powerful it carved grooves into the earth. Modern excavations near ancient Sumerian temples have uncovered strange, elongated depressions in the ground patterns that resemble nothing so much as scorch marks from immense weight or heat. Coincidence or echoes of a truth buried in myth? Take the Epic of Etana, one of the oldest surviving legends. It tells of a shepherd king who ascends to the heavens on the back of a divine eagle, witnessing the earth shrink beneath him like a basket before reaching a glittering gate of the gods. The descriptions are startlingly vivid: the curvature of the planet, the blackness of space, even the sensation of weightlessness. Compare this to the famous Baghdad Battery, and a tantalizing possibility emerges. Could the Ananaki's fiery chariots have been powered by technology we're only now beginning to understand? Then there's the mystery of the sacred objects the Ananaki allegedly gifted to humanity. Described as small, glowing tablets or rods, they supposedly contain the blueprints for civilization itself. Modern scholars often interpret these as symbolic representations of divine knowledge, but Sumerian art tells a different story. Cylinder seals show figures holding what look like handheld devices with protruding antennas, their surfaces covered in intricate markings. One particularly striking seal, now in the Berlin Museum, depicts a figure offering such an object to a king, while above them, a disc-shaped object hovers in the sky, radiating lines like a modern UFO illustration. But perhaps the most compelling evidence lies in what the Sumerians didn't say. Unlike later cultures who shrouded their gods in metaphor, Sumerian accounts read like bureaucratic records, dry, detailed, and oddly technical. The Ananaki weren't omnipotent spirits. They were administrators assigned to specific cities with titles like Overseer of Mining or Director of Celestial Calculations. The famous Sumerian king list even notes their reigns lasting tens of thousands of years, a detail that reads less like mythology and more like a report. So where does that leave us, with a civilization that spoke of sky gods not with awe-struck poetry, but with the matter-of-fact tone of someone describing a visiting dignitary? Whether the Ananaki were advanced travelers, personified forces of nature, or something beyond our current understanding, their legacy endures in the most unexpected places. Next time you look up at a passing plane, remember, 6,000 years ago, someone in Mesopotamia might have seen something similar and called it a god. The story of Roanoke Colony isn't just a historical footnote, it's a riddle wrapped in a single cryptic word. In 1590, English settlers led by John White vanished from their fledgling village on Roanoke Island, leaving behind no bodies, no signs of struggle, and only one clue carved into a wooden post: Croatoan. This wasn't just any name, it referred to a nearby island and the Native American tribe who lived there. But here's where the mystery deepens. When White returned from a supply run to England and found the colony deserted, he noted something eerie in his journal. The houses had been carefully dismantled, not destroyed, as if the settlers planned to reassemble them elsewhere. And then there's the detail that chills historians to this day. The letters Crow were also carved into a tree, as if someone started the message but never finished. Was it a hasty departure note or something far more ominous? Theories about Roanoke's fate range from the plausible to the extraordinary. Some argue the colonists simply integrated with the Croatoan people, a theory supported by later reports of fair-skinned, English-speaking natives in the region. Others point to the brutal droughts of the 1580s, which would have made survival nearly impossible without help from local tribes. But then there are the whispers that edge into the realm of the unexplained. A 16th century account from a Spanish sailor claimed to have seen a strange light hovering over Roanoke the night the colony vanished, while indigenous oral traditions speak of sky canoes visiting the coast around the same time. Could these fragments hint at something beyond conventional history? What makes Roanoke so haunting isn't just the disappearance, it's how perfectly it mirrors older vanishings. Like the Anasau's empty cliff dwellings or the abandoned cities of the Minoans, Roanoke's settlers left behind a scene frozen in time, a child's toy half buried in the dirt. A rusted helmet placed neatly by a hearth, even the settlers' own words preserved in white sketches show a community that expected to stay, not flee. This wasn't a panicked exodus. It was as if they simply stepped out of existence, leaving their world intact behind them. The most unsettling parallel lies in the way Roanoke's story fractures under scrutiny. Just as the Phaistos Disc symbols resist translation, the word Croatoan refuses to yield its full meaning. Was it a destination, a warning, or something else entirely? Modern excavations have turned up a handful of European artifacts on Hatteras Island, home of the Croatoan, including a gold ring and a slate writing tablet. But these are fragments, not answers. Like the scattered ruins of older civilizations, they tease us with possibilities but refuse to connect the dots. Perhaps the truth lies in the way disappearances echo across time. Whether it's Roanoke's settlers or the sky-worshipping cultures before them, vanishing acts share a common thread. They force us to confront how fragile history really is. A single storm, a missed supply ship, a carved word, any of these can be the loose thread that unravels an entire community's story. And in that uncertainty, Roanoke stops being just a colonial mystery. It becomes a mirror, reflecting all the lost voices we'll never hear, and all the skies they might have once dared to reach for. Far out in the Pacific, where the horizon stretches endlessly in every direction, Easter Island's stone giants stand silent guard over a mystery as vast as the ocean itself. The towering moai may draw every visitor's gaze, but it's the lesser-known petroglyphs scattered across the island's volcanic rock that whisper the most tantalizing secrets. Carved into boulders and cave walls, intricate depictions of birdmen with elongated beaks and outstretched wings share space with spirals resembling celestial maps and symbols mirroring constellations. These aren't random doodles, they're fragments of a lost language, one that might rewrite our understanding of how the world's most isolated culture saw the heavens. Consider the annual Tangata Monu, or birdman competition, where warriors scaled sheer cliffs to retrieve the first sooty tern egg of the season. The winner wasn't just celebrated, he was ritually transformed, spending the next year in seclusion as the earthly embodiment of the god Makemake, a deity associated with fertility and, curiously, the stars. What's striking isn't just the ceremony's brutality, but its celestial undertones. Petroglyphs at Orongo, the ceremonial village where the competition was held, show hybrid figures with human bodies and bird heads clutching what look like star charts. Modern astronomers have noted these carvings align with the rising of the Pleiades, a cluster critical to Polynesian navigation. Could these rituals have been more than pageantry? Could they have been a way to commune with or even emulate skyborne forces? Then there's the enigma of the Rongorongo tablets. These wooden artifacts, etched with glyphs still undeciphered, contain repeated symbols resembling comets and crescent moons alongside the birdman motif. Some researchers, like linguist Stephen Fisher, argue the script may encode astronomical events, perhaps even the arrival of the island's first settlers. The patterns bear eerie similarities to petroglyphs found in Hawaii and the Marquesas, suggesting a shared celestial vocabulary across the Polynesian Triangle. But Easter Island's isolation makes these connections baffling. with no trees left to build ocean-worthy canoes by the time Europeans arrived. How did such precise astronomical knowledge persist for centuries without contact? The most haunting clue might lie in the moai themselves. While their hollow eyes stare inland, their backs are carved with intricate petroglyphs only visible from above, designs of fishhooks, waves, and again, those cryptic birdmen. It's as if the statues were meant to be seen not just by people, but by something looking down from the sky. Local oral traditions speak of the flying canoe, a vessel that brought the first king, Hatumata, from a sinking homeland. These stories, once dismissed as migration myths, take on new weight when you examine the island's lone surviving canoe paddle, housed in a British museum. Its blade is painted with the same star patterns found at Orongo, a silent testament to how deeply the sky was woven into Rapa Nui identity. Perhaps the answer lies in the island's very isolation. Cut off from the world, the Rapa Nui people turned their gaze upward, transforming the night sky into their compass, their calendar, and their connection to the divine. Their birdmen weren't just symbols, they were avatars of humanity's oldest dream, to touch the heavens even when trapped on an island smaller than Manhattan. In the end, Easter Island's greatest mystery isn't how the statues walked, but how their creators soared without ever leaving the ground. Leonardo da Vinci's sketches of flying machines don't just represent genius, they're a puzzle wrapped in parchment. At first glance, his ornithopter designs, with their flapping wings and intricate gears, seem like pure Renaissance innovation. But look closer, and you'll notice something startling. The mechanics bear an uncanny resemblance to ancient descriptions of mythical flying devices, from the feathered serpents of Mesoamerica to the Vimanas of India. Was Da Vinci simply tapping into universal human fascination with flight, or could he have stumbled upon fragments of much older knowledge, buried in forgotten texts or whispered in the workshops of Florence? Take his aerial screw, a helical design often called the precursor to the modern helicopter. While it's celebrated as a stroke of ahead of its time engineering, similar spiral patterns appear in artifacts far older. The Tibetan prayer wheels, said to carry prayers skyward, and the Greek legend of Icarus' spiraling fall both hint at a recurring fascination with helical motion. Even more intriguing are Da Vinci's notes on air as water, describing flight in terms of fluid dynamics, a concept echoed in ancient Sanskrit texts that compare the sky to an ocean navigable by the right vessel. Coincidence or evidence of a thread connecting eras? Then there's the mystery of his sources. Da Vinci was notorious for scavenging ideas from obscure manuscripts in monastic libraries, where classical and Arab scientific works lay gathering dust. Some scholars speculate he might have encountered fragments of Hero of Alexandria's writings on pneumatics, or even surviving scraps of Archimedes' lost treatises on mechanics. His notebooks contain cryptic references to the masters of old and devices seen in the East, tantalizing hints that his designs weren't conjured from thin air. One particularly revealing sketch shows a man strapped to a winged platform, labeled with measurements in both Italian and what appears to be Arabic numerals, a silent testament to the cross-cultural pollination fueling his genius. But the real proof lies in the failures. Da Vinci's flying machines, for all their brilliance, had fatal flaws. His ornithopters couldn't generate enough lift because he misunderstood birds' wing mechanics, a mistake the ancient Indian text Vaimanika Shastra allegedly avoided by describing fixed-wing designs. His parachute, while visionary, was impossibly heavy without modern materials. These weren't just technical missteps, they're clues. If Da Vinci had access to complete ancient blueprints, wouldn't his prototypes have worked? Instead, his struggles suggest he was reconstructing ideas from incomplete fragments, like an archaeologist reassembling a vase from scattered shards. Perhaps Da Vinci's greatest contribution wasn't the machines themselves, but the questions they force us to ask. In his notebooks, alongside sketches of gears and wings, he scribbled a single line: "There are entire sciences lost to the fire of time." Whether those sciences included flight is still up for debate, but one thing is certain: his work stands as a bridge between the myths of sky gods and the equations of aerodynamics, a reminder that human innovation rarely springs from nothing. It's a conversation across centuries, written in ink and longing, and the pages of that dialogue are still being turned. The Piri Reis map of 1513 shouldn't exist. Drawn on gazelle skin by an Ottoman admiral, it shows coastlines no European had supposedly seen yet, not just the Americas, but Antarctica's northern edge, ice-free and shockingly precise. Even more baffling, the continent had been buried under miles of ice for millennia by then. Reis himself wrote that his work was pieced together from older charts, some dating back to Alexander the Great's era. But here's the twist: those source maps are long gone, leaving us to wonder who first surveyed these lands and how. One clue lies in the map's mathematical sophistication. Reis plotted latitudes with near-modern accuracy, a feat impossible without advanced astronomical tools. Yet the instruments of his time couldn't account for the map's most puzzling feature: its apparent use of spherical trigonometry, a technique formalized centuries later. Some researchers argue this points to an ancient precursor, a civilization that understood Earth's curvature and mapped it from above. The Oron's fine world map of 1531 adds fuel to the fire, depicting Antarctica with rivers and mountains where only ice exists today. These details align disturbingly well with modern subglacial topography, revealed only by satellite radar in the 21st century. Then there's the Haji Ahmed map of 1559, which shows a land bridge between Siberia and Alaska, a Bering Strait crossing that vanished underwater at the end of the last ice age. Its coastlines match sonar scans of the now submerged terrain with eerie precision. Could these cartographers have accessed surveys made when sea levels were lower? The Zeno map of the 14th century compounds the mystery, depicting Greenland without its glacial cover, complete with fjords and valleys later confirmed by airborne radar. These aren't lucky guesses, they're snapshots of a world as it existed thousands of years before the maps were drawn. The most compelling evidence might come from the sky itself. Many of these maps employ a plane chart projection, distorting landmasses in ways that only make sense if the cartographer was working from an aerial perspective. Take the Buach map of 1737. It renders Antarctica as two landmasses divided by a sea. Satellite gravity mapping in 2012 revealed this was accurate. The continent is essentially an archipelago under the ice. Such precision suggests the original surveyors didn't just sail along coastlines, they viewed them from a vantage point that revealed their true shapes. Skeptics argue these maps could be composites, blending sailors' logs with speculative geography. But that doesn't explain why certain errors, like the exaggerated width of South America on the Piri Reis map, mirror distortions seen in satellite photos when accounting for curvature. It's as if the source maps were stitched together from a patchwork of high-altitude observations. The implications are staggering. If these maps preserve fragments of pre-glacial knowledge, they hint at a network of seafaring or even skyfaring cultures lost to time. Whether that means advanced ancient explorers, forgotten civilizations with balloon technology, or something even more extraordinary remains an open question. What's undeniable is this: the past holds maps to places we're only beginning to rediscover, and some of those charts seem drawn from perspectives we still can't fully explain. The Voynich manuscript doesn't just resist translation, it mocks it. Tucked away in Yale University's Banach Library, this 200-page parchment is a labyrinth of looping, botanical script and bizarre illustrations. Plants that don't match any known species, star charts that defy conventional astronomy, and most tantalizing of all, intricate diagrams of what appear to be mechanical devices. One page shows a series of interconnected tubes and vessels labeled with the manuscript's unreadable script, resembling an alchemist's distillation apparatus. Another depicts nude women bathing in green liquid inside what could be chambers of a larger machine. But the most provocative images are the ones that look like engineering schematics, spindly towers topped with rotating spheres, or wheeled platforms supporting what might be wings or sails. To modern eyes, they evoke prototypes for flying machines or energy harnesses, centuries ahead of their time. What makes the manuscript so unsettling isn't just its content, but its context. Carbon dated to the early 15th century, its vellum and ink are undeniably medieval. Yet the plants drawn in its margins, assuming they're not pure fantasy, suggest knowledge of flora from as far away as Central America or even Asia, continents Europeans hadn't yet mapped. The astrological sections feature celestial configurations that don't align with any known medieval star charts, but eerily mirror descriptions in ancient Indian astronomical texts. Even the script itself is an enigma. Statistical analyses reveal patterns consistent with a real language, yet every attempted decryption, from Renaissance cryptographers to modern AI, has hit a wall. This isn't random gibberish, it's a code no one's cracked. Theories about its purpose spiral from scholarly to sensational. Some academics argue it's an elaborate herbal manual, its plants symbolic representations of medical concepts. Others point to the zodiac-like diagrams as evidence of an obscure astrological treatise, but the most electrifying hypothesis comes from researchers like Dr. Arthur Tucker, who noticed similarities between Voynich's flora and Mesoamerican botanical illustrations. Could the manuscript be a transliterated Nahuatl text smuggled to Europe by a Spanish friar? The timing aligns. The conquest of the Aztec Empire began just decades after the manuscript's estimated creation. If true, it would mean the Voynich isn't just a puzzle. It's a relic of a scientific tradition erased by colonization. Then there's the machinery. Pages 75 through 86 depict what some call the Rosette fold-out, a sprawling diagram of interconnected tubes and pods resembling an early vision of a hydraulic system or even a proto-steam engine. The accompanying text, if that's what it is dense with repeating characters as if detailing technical specifications. In 2014, a University of Bedfordshire professor proposed these could be instructions for harnessing atmospheric energy, a concept medieval science shouldn't have grasped. Skeptics counter that the images are allegorical, representing spiritual concepts rather than physical devices. But why would spiritual symbols require such precise, mechanical detail? The most haunting possibility is that the Voynich is both less and more than we imagine. Less because it might not contain grand secrets of flight or energy, just the musings of an eccentric scholar blending botany, astrology, and speculative engineering. More because its very existence proves how much knowledge slips through history's cracks. Every failed decryption is a reminder the past isn't a book we've read. It's a manuscript we're still learning to see, and somewhere in those cryptic curves and unreadable runes, there might be whispers of a world far stranger than we've dared to suppose. Theories about these vanished skymasters spiral as wildly as the constellations they once tracked. Some point to the Earth itself turning against them, volcanic winters choking the sun, droughts withering crops, or earthquakes swallowing cities whole. The Minoans' fate, tied to Thera's eruption, shows how quickly a civilization can be erased by natural fury. But here's the catch: disasters rarely explain the precision of these disappearances. Why abandon cities intact like the Anasazi's cliff dwellings with meals still on the table? Why take the time to dismantle structures as if planning a return, only to vanish without a trace? Then there are the darker, human-shaped theories. Invasion, war, or internal collapse could have scattered these cultures, their knowledge fragmenting like shards of pottery. The Chachapoya's fortress at Kulap, with its narrow, defensible gates, hints at conflict. Yet where are the battle scars, the mass graves? Conquest leaves rubble and bones. These vanishings leave silence. Even plagues, which can depopulate with terrifying speed, don't account for the absence of survivors clinging to old ways. Unless, of course, the survivors chose to walk away entirely, carrying secrets into new lands. The Dogon's Sirius lore or the Hopi's Kachina stories might be echoes of such migrations, where only the deepest wisdom endured. But what if the answer isn't on the ground at all? Ancient astronaut theories whisper of celestial interventions, visitors who gifted technology, then reclaimed it. The Sumerian Ananaki, the Dogon's Namo, even the Hopi's flying shields fit this mold. Yet reducing these cultures to passive recipients of alien wisdom misses the point. Their achievements in astronomy, engineering, and flight suggest something more profound. Perhaps they weren't just taught, but became teachers themselves, ascending to a realm we've yet to rediscover. The Nazca lines, visible only from above, or Angkor Wat's celestial alignments, could be messages or maps for beings no longer here, the most haunting possibility. These civilizations didn't vanish, they evolved. Imagine a society mastering flight not as a tool, but as a gateway. The Minoans' gold-winged pendants, the Olmecs' hematite compasses, even Da Vinci's fevered sketches might be fragments of a greater whole, a pursuit not just of mechanical flight, but of transcending earthly limits altogether. The Tibetan Lung Gom Pa monk's levitation, the Vedic Vimanas' Mercury engines. What if these weren't myths but milestones? The truth may lie in the gaps between theories. Natural disasters could have been the catalyst, not the cause, pushing sky-obsessed cultures to accelerate their ambitions. Wars might have forced them to hide or adapt their knowledge into symbols we now misread as myth. And the visitors they spoke of, perhaps they were the ones who left not in ships but in ways we've yet to imagine. The only certainty is this: their absence isn't an ending. It's an invitation to look up and wonder what else might be waiting in the stars. The hunt for lost sky civilizations has entered a new era, where cutting-edge technology meets ancient mystery in ways our ancestors could never have imagined. Satellite archaeology now scans the Earth's surface with infrared and LiDAR, revealing hidden structures beneath dense jungles or shifting sands, like the recent discovery of a sprawling Mayan megalopolis in Guatemala. Its causeways and pyramids invisible to the naked eye but laid bare by lasers. These tools don't just find ruins, they map entire forgotten landscapes, showing how cultures like the Nazca or the Chachapoya might have designed their cities as part of a grand celestial blueprint. Beneath the waves, robotic submersibles scour ocean floors for clues that could rewrite history. Off the coast of Japan, the Yonaguni monuments terraced formations. Some argue they're natural, others insist they're man-made, echo the step pyramids of Mesoamerica. Meanwhile, in the Mediterranean, sonar has detected what appear to be drowned cities with concentric walls resembling Plato's descriptions of Atlantis. Each dive turns up artifacts that defy timelines, like the Antikythera mechanism's gears, proving ancient minds could conceive of machinery we once thought impossible. Artificial intelligence adds another layer to the search. Machine learning algorithms now sift through thousands of cuneiform tablets or undeciphered scripts like the Voynich manuscript, detecting patterns human eyes might miss. In 2022, an AI trained on ancient trade routes pinpointed 3 previously unknown Olmec sites by analyzing soil composition and old merchant records. Elsewhere, neural networks reconstruct fragmented murals or predict where undiscovered ruins might lie based on geological data and historical climate models. Yet for all our tech, some answers may still lie in living traditions. Indigenous elders from the Andes to the outback preserve oral histories that describe celestial events or aerial phenomena with startling accuracy. When Hopi guides led researchers to a petroglyph site aligning with a supernova witnessed in 1054, it proved their ancestors had tracked the cosmos for millennia. Similarly, Polynesian navigators still use star paths their ancestors followed, techniques so precise they rival GPS. The most tantalizing breakthroughs often come from blending old and new. Take the work of archaeoacoustics, where scientists study how ancient structures interact with sound. At Malta's Hal Saflieni hypogeum, a chamber carved 6,000 years ago resonates at a frequency that induces trance states, suggesting rituals where vibration and architecture merge to create otherworldly experiences. Could this explain legends of levitation or sky-bound deities? What drives this relentless search isn't just curiosity. It's the growing suspicion that these civilizations weren't primitive, but differently advanced. A Maya observatory that tracked Venus more accurately than Renaissance telescopes, or the Baghdad Battery's spark of electricity, hint at knowledge pathways that didn't lead to industrialization but to other kinds of mastery. Every satellite image, every algorithm's guess, brings us closer to a truth that might not just change history, but how we see humanity's place in the cosmos. The real discovery waiting to be made isn't just who they were, it's what they understood that we're still struggling to relearn. The stories of these sky-bound civilizations don't just belong to the past, they echo into our future. Every time we gaze at the stars or marvel at modern flight, we're standing on the shoulders of those who dared to dream beyond the horizon long before the Wright brothers left the ground. The Chachapoya's cloud-kissed fortresses, the Nazca's sprawling desert glyphs, the Dogon's celestial wisdom, these aren't just footnotes in history, they're invitations to rethink what's possible. Consider how much we've lost. The Library of Alexandria's burned scrolls might have held the first blueprints for human flight. The Olmecs magnetized hematite could have been part of a navigation system we'll never fully reconstruct. Even the Baghdad Battery, humble as it seems, hints at a lineage of experimentation that didn't just vanish, it was interrupted. These cultures didn't fail, they were chapters in a story that's still being written. Yet their absence teaches us something profound. Human progress isn't a straight line, it's a spiral where ideas resurface across millennia. Da Vinci's flying machines mirrored ancient Indian Vimanas. Modern hot air balloons unknowingly fulfilled the Hopi's prophecies of floating shields. The threads connecting these moments suggest something extraordinary, that the urge to conquer the sky is woven into our very DNA. So what do we do with these fragments? We keep looking not just for answers but for better questions. Satellite archaeology and AI are helping us decode petroglyphs and realign ruined temples with forgotten star paths. Indigenous elders share oral histories that bridge gaps in our understanding. Every discovery, no matter how small, is a piece of a puzzle we're only beginning to assemble. The greatest lesson these vanished civilizations left us isn't about their technology or their tragedies. It's about humility. In an age where we've mapped the genome and landed probes on Mars, their stories remind us how much we still don't know and how much might have been known before. The sky wasn't just their obsession, it was their mirror reflecting ambitions we're still chasing today. As the search continues, one thing is certain: the past is far stranger, richer, and more daring than we've been taught. And if history has taught us anything, it's that every ending is just a prelude to the next discovery. So keep wondering, keep questioning, because the next great revelation might not come from a lab or a textbook, but from a clue left in the stones, the stars, or the silent wings of a forgotten dream. If this journey through the clouds of history sparked your curiosity, let us know in the comments what mystery from the ancient world fascinates you most. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into the shadows of our past. The sky, after all, isn't the limit,